You're breaking up, Zeta.
I probably Wi-Fi spot.
Zeta, you still have break up.
Zeta type. How we not hear what you say. Nobody not even there for translate.
No, you're still breaking up.
No.
Zeta, type what you're saying so we can follow. All right, ladies, until Zeta types that question, we are we are going to today we are going to start a new theme. So for section A for CXC, you can choose, we call it topic now. Indigenous people and Europeans, Caribbean economy and slavery resistance and revolt. So that is A. B, you're going to either choose metropolitan movement or adjustments. We haven't looked at adjustments as yet. And C, the United States in the Caribbean. I wanted us to start to look at the US because that's the only thing you're going to do in C. It makes no sense for us to start at adjustments and then we are not able to finish the United States in the Caribbean. So it is better we finish the United States in the Caribbean and then we go back to adjustments. Agree?
Yes, sir. Read it out this
Yes,
again
sir,
last
yes,
year.
sir.
How I had said
Oh,
this, that makes sense for true.
yes. So we're going to look at adjustments,
Repeat.
but after we look at the United States in the Caribbean, let us look at Miller's question. Oh, you're ready to discuss because you actually read. Okay, good, good. Lovely, lovely. So that you say all along. All right, ladies. So what we're going to do today, we're going to look at the relationship between, we're going to look at the relationship between so the theme that we're looking at, and you see that textbook that I sent to you, the Vita Dawson, get your parents to you know print it and have that as your Bible. That's the one that we're going to use. All right. With the other textbook, if we're going to go to the other textbook, I'm going to send it to you, but that is what we're going to do. All right. So we're looking at the United States in the Caribbean, and the topic for today is that we're going to look at the relationship between British North American colonies and the British West Indies colonies. What were their relationship like? And so on that note, I want to ask you, what is a colony? What is a colony?
You can hear me?
Yeah?
I'm breaking up still?
No, no.
Oh, sir, a colony is a country that's owned by like one metropolis, you know? Like those countries in charge. So yeah. Like
All right.
Jamaica was a colony of,
Yes.
is that correct?
Y- Yes, you're correct. So a colony is when a colony is that has a country that is in charge of them. So that is one definition. The so what happened back then was that several European countries left Europe. So for example, Spain, France, Britain, these are European countries. They left Europe and they came to the Americas and they colonized this area, the Americas. We know for sure that the first European country to arrive in the America was, which country was the first European country to colonize the America?
Can you go back on the other slide?
Which country was the first European country
Americas.
to colonize the Americas?
Spain.
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 Spain,
Spain.
sir.
Very good, yes. Spain. So Spain was the first European country. And then after Spain, then you had the British, the French, the Portuguese came immediately after. Then you had the French, then the British. You have the Dutch that came also. And so the people from these different countries settled. So they moved from Europe and they settled on individual territory, or settled in individual territories. And the truth and in fact is that they would have fought over the Americas several times. So if I should give you one perfect example, let us look at St. Lucia and Grenada. St. Lucia changed political hands several times because you're always fighting. The Spanish said, listen, we don't want anybody to take over this part of the world. All of this part of the world, the Americas, belongs to us. That's what the Spanish said, because we were the first to colonize. We're the first to settle. We are the first to so-called discovered. They've used the word discovered, but we know that you can't discover something that somebody already know about. There's no discovery. And so, based on that, St. Lucia and Grenada would have changed political hands several times. We recently looked at Saint Domingue, which is now Haiti. The Tainos had a Saint Domingue. Well, Haiti, the Tainos called the entire island of Hispaniola Haiti. And then the Spanish settled the island, and then around 1697, the French took over the western side of the island and they call it Saint Domingue. The other side was called Santo Domingo or Dominican Republic. So that is one example. So we know for sure that they would have changed political hands. European countries fought over islands and territories in the Americas. The same for Jamaica. Jamaica was first settled by the Spanish, then the British came and they took over Jamaica. Grenada, St. Lucia changed hands between the British and the French several times. In fact, St. Lucia changed political hands 14 times. And so 14 wars happened over the island of St. Lucia. The British won 7 times, the French won 7 times. And so we know for sure, ladies, that European countries would have colonized the Americas, right? Now, if you look on my map right here, you will see that what is currently today, let I go down here. What is currently today the United States of America? So this is a full map of the United States of America, right? Let's see if I can. This is a full map of the United States of America. This was not the original map. This was not the original territory. originally, before you had a place that was called the United States of America, and I know that you know this because you would have done this already, you had 13 colonies, right? So these were the original 13 colonies. So Britain had colonies in North America, colonies, notice I said colonies. So even though they were on the same space, they were 13 separate colonies that had 13 separate colonial government. So just like how Barbados was a British colony and Jamaica was a British colony, they are separated by sea. Barbados is one colony, Jamaica is one colony, St. Kitts is one colony. In the same way, although the 13 colonies were on the same continent, or you could basically walk from one area to the next, the 13 colonies were very distinct. They were separate colonies. They are different cultures, and as you can see today, New York is very much different from Georgia. 13 colonies. The same way Pennsylvania is very different from New York. They traded various goods. They also had different governance structure. But after a period, what happened that would have caused the 13 colonies to so-called unite?
Wasn't it like
The
independence?
American Revolution too.
That thing?
The American Revolution would have caused them to unite. But why they would have, what caused them to unite? We know a revolution happened, but what was one of the cause of the revolution?
Sir, would it be poor treatment from their mother countries, like when in respects to trade and how they handled certain operations?
That is correct, very correct. So if we look at the 13 colonies, Britain basically wanted full control over the North American colonies. And by right, if I'm the mother country and I want to determine if how the colony should operate, then I should have that liberty. But the 13 colonies said, listen, no, you're far away. And one, Britain wanted to implement taxes on the North American colonies. The North American colonies said, no, you can't tax us. In fact, Britain wanted to put a lot of restriction on them. And so that led to a revolution. And on July the 4th, 1776, the 13 colonies came together and said, listen, this was the original flag of the US. 13 stars.
So, sir, as like the states, they got more states, they added more stars.
Yes.
Oh.
So more states, more stars. Stripes in the US flag, there are 13 stripes, which actually show that the 13 British colonies, or the 13 British North American colonies, unite together to form one country. And they declared themselves on July the 4th, 1776, independence from Britain. Britain didn't accept that independence. So a war was fought between the 13 colonies and Britain. I believe the war would have ended around 1812, right? When Britain said, listen, I'm just tired of the fighting. I recognize your independence. And that's one of the reasons why.
Sir, it said 1783 was when Britain recognized that they were free.
Yes, that is correct. 1783. 1783 is the day. So in 1783, they would have recognized, Britain would have recognized the independence of the US, the 13 colonies that came together. And so when we next on Monday, we are going to see how after they recognize the independence, how that would have changed the relationship between the United States and also the United States and the British Caribbean. Now, after they got their independence, after 1783, the United States expanded their territory. So after they got their independence, they are going to expand from 13 original colonies, which is here, and they are going to expand.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, they did this by acquiring the Louisiana.
So yes, Louisiana was 1803. This settlement deal happened in 1783. They fought a war with Mexico. All of this area that I'm showing you right now was originally part of Mexico. They fought a war and took over that area from Mexico. They also purchased, I believe, Florida. Florida was originally belonged to Spain, right? All of this area was part of the French. France owned most of this area. And so they are going to expand to what today is called the United States of America. So they move from 13 colonies to what this is now. Till they also own places in the Caribbean, which we are going to look at.
Excuse me, sir, they still own Puerto Rico, right? They own Puerto
Still,
Rico?
yes, they are still in charge of Puerto Rico.
And Cayman too, sir, or
Not
Jamaica
Cayman,
own
not
Cayman?
Cayman, Puerto
Sir, who
Rico,
own Cayman?
the British.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they own the
Now,
US Virgin Islands too.
and they also own the US Virgin Islands, they own Puerto Rico, and they have a base in
Sir,
Cuba.
them have only for many islands all over the place.
Yes, and did you know that they wanted, you see the keys that made it on the news the other day?
The lime key.
The lime keys.
Lime
Yes,
key,
yes, the
maiden
lime
key. What am I do with maiden key
Are they
and
going to
lime
use
key?
lime key or maiden key? It's just a little sand patch.
Right
Yes.
there, so can walk.
The United States said that they wanted that area too.
See what?
Also,
Absolutely.
there's some little, you think there's nothing they can't do with it, but it is very important for them. Also, there's some little islands south of Jamaica, which is the Pedro Keys, and also
Sir, what?
the
Goat
Goat
Island?
Islands. Yes, the United States settled on the Goat Islands during World War I and II in Jamaica.
Look here, they need to stay over there. So kind of need a more chop up, please.
So,
How much places them have on him still?
Exactly.
So-
About themselves. I mean,
ladies, what we're going to do this term is that we are going to look in the Caribbean, and we are going to see how the United States is interested in the Caribbean and want to control the Caribbean. And
Cuba.
yes, Cuba is one perfect example. Now let us look at trade between so this is before they unite together as the North American colonies. Sorry, before they unite as the United States. So what was the trading relationship between the British North American colonies and the British West Indies?
Sir,
One of the first things, go ahead.
Sir, so on the North American colonies, So they
Yeah,
got like sugar, things that were made in the West Indies, like sugar and
good.
molasses from the
Yes.
and then the West Indies colonies got like like sir like animals. Yeah, I remember that. And
Mm-hmm.
like the stuff that are not made in their country. But it wasn't like you know they got it was like it wasn't law because they weren't supposed to do it, but because it benefited both of them, it continued.
Very good, very good. Very good point.
Sir?
And this is 1 second before you go, there's a point that we need to mention is that Britain had a policy that is called mercantilism.
Yes.
In fact, all
Where they
the
were only
European
allowed to trade
colonies had
with
it.
the mother country, sir. That's what it is, right?
Yes, so mercantilism is that you trade only with the mother country. So even
Selfish.
though North America is a British colony and the British Caribbean, they are also British colony, they could not trade with each other without the permission of
The mother.
North America, without the permission of Britain. So same thing, Jamaica and Barbados, both are located in the Caribbean. If you have goods to send to Jamaica, you have to get the permission from Britain. So Britain controlled trade. What was the act that was used to control trade? That Mercantile Act. What was it called? Paper one, the British.
Sir, was it the British Ordering Council?
No.
British trade laws.
Oh,
I
sir,
don't
is it
know.
West Indian and American Trade Act?
No.
Or is it the navigation law?
Very good. The British
Wow.
Navigation Law.
Hello.
Oh,
Or the British Navigation Act that say that you only trade with the mother country. They control trade. Now, let us look at some of the connections. Before I go to the connection, there's one of the connection that they had that was trading. They used to trade a lot of goods together. So even though the Navigation Act said that, listen, you're not supposed to trade without my permission, because they are both British colonies, the Britain played a very blind eye to it. It is like today in Jamaica where
Excuse
we
me,
are not
sir.
supposed to litter. We are not supposed to litter, but I've
we
seen
see.
in Tree where persons throw garbage right in front of the police officer and they just play a very blind eye to it.
Sir,
Right? Go ahead.
sir, and because the British, sir, they were also getting stuff from
Mhm.
them. So like, sir, if I'm getting something, I'm not gonna block my blessing. So they're not going to like keep up with it because they were getting like corn and those stuff from the colonies as well.
The truth is that both were British colonies, both British, well, not British North America and the British West Indies. They are made up of several different colonies. They were all owned by Britain. And the truth and in fact is that Britain really, even though a law was there that said that, listen, we should trade with, you shouldn't trade directly with each other without my permission, they traded. But you see, if Barbados said, listen, we're going to trade with a Spanish country, then you know that there was going to be problem. Britain would have stepped in. Now, both were governed by Britain, the North American colonies and the British West Indies. They had a very strong migration history. So for example, Carolina, North and South Carolina was first settled by the inhabitants from Barbados. So Carolina, that area was first, it was settlers, British settlers from Barbados who went and settled in that area, right? And developed that area. So there was strong connection. Also, there was strong business connection between North America and the British West Indies. Quite a lot of wealthy persons in British North America owned sugar plantations, slaves, and houses in the British West Indies. For example, George Washington, the first president of the United States, he owned a plantation in Barbados. In fact, quite a lot of them would have owned in the US. Those first set of people who made up the US Congress were slave owners in the Caribbean. They owned slaves in the Caribbean, they owned plantation, but they lived in North America, just like George Washington, the first president. And also they had a very strong trading relations. And trade, so British colonies, the British West Indies, so countries like Jamaica, Barbados, St. Kitts, right? They sent to North America molasses, rum, sugar, tropical goods such as ginger, pimento, and other things. All right? So these were some of the goods that they would have sent from the British West Indies to North America. Go ahead for me, Lawrence.
So I was just adding that they also sent indigo and logwood.
Yes, they also would have sent that from the British West Indies to the North American colonies. The truth and in fact is that in North America, because of the condition, the temperature, and the weather, they can't grow sugar there. And so the Caribbean was perfect for growing sugar. And
Sir, excuse me.
go ahead.
Sir, I may be guessing it wrong, but like with the like sugar revolution, wasn't it like Virginia? Was it? Oh no, it was
Sugar revolution happened
I have a question.
in Barbados.
So I have a question. So while all of this is going on, like the whole British West Indies and North American trade under Sykes is going on, you're telling me that like the American Revolution and the Boston Tea Party and all of this is happening at the same time as well?
Everything, yes, all of it is going to happen. Now, when we meet on Monday, you're going to see after the American Revolution happened, Britain is going to say, listen, West Indies colonies, you cannot trade with North America. No trading. They are going to stand up. Britain is going to stand up to the Caribbean and said, colonies in the Caribbean, you cannot trade. And you're going to see the problem that is going to cause. Now, if we look at this, so these are some of the things that they would have sent. From North America, they sent quite a lot of things to the Caribbean. They sent staves. So these little things here that they used to put water in, and the sugar, which is like a barrel, came directly from North America.
Sir?
So yes?
Sir, they also sent flour and saltfish for the enslaved.
Very well. So they sent the hogshead. So this barrel that is made is called a hogshead.
And horses too, sir.
Very good. Very good. You are correct. So somebody said saltfish, flour, horses.
Sir, what's that in the middle?
Salt pork.
Yeah.
So when the restrictions started on trading from North America, didn't they like carry like different other different foods like breadfruit, and the slave refused to eat it because they fed it to pigs in
Oh,
their
they said, yeah.
in Africa, and they're like, I'm not eating this.
Listen, once you ask a very important question. You see, once the American Revolution happened, slaves in the Caribbean going to die of hunger.
Starvation was high.
Yes,
Because
sir.
they tried to implement other foods and it didn't work because the enslaved refused to eat it.
Yeah, they had mango. They tried to implement mango
And
and
mango
ackee,
wasn't
but
considered a food.
was
And bread.
These and all, and one bagger.
Because
Sir, when I
both
read
of
that,
us in North America, ladies, we know that because of their temperature, wheat grows well. Flour. Listen, you cook some flour dumpling and some salt fish or some salt pork. You mix up that with little corn. Trust me, enslaved people have their food. Even today in the Caribbean, uh, people when them hungry and don't have no money, them cook some flour dumpling with some butter and they eat it because the flour will keep you. The dumpling, yes, dumpling will keep you. If you don't want to get hungry, eat 3 or 4 dumpling. And you feel good. But also remember, they're going to have a hard time at the bathroom. So salt fish was a major staple in the enslaved people diet. Salt pork, they get this mostly at Christmas time. Flour, horses that was used for transportation, right? Also, the clothes that the enslaved people wore came from North America. Oil and peas, all of this came from North America. So we know for sure that there was a very, very strong trading relationship between North America and the British Caribbean. Even after the revolution, and America declared themselves independence from Britain, they are still going to try to sneak in goods in the Caribbean because Caribbean plantations depended heavily on trading from North America. Next thing, ladies, molasses and rum was very important for North Americans. Why it was important?
sir, it was important because in the winter they feed the slaves to keep them warm.
Very good. So just like Brittany that drink a lot of tea during the winter,
Every time them drink
in
tea.
North America,
So that's why those
in
people
the
like
winter you give them rum and molasses for them to keep warm. And rum came directly from the Caribbean, molasses from the Caribbean. Go ahead for me, Lawrence.
Sarah, I was just saying something that like came back to my memory because you said that the hog shed came from North America, but
Yeah,
then I remember that isn't the hog shed like
Hogshead.
yes sir, that's used to store like the sugar and the molasses for when they're shipping it off.
For shipment, yes,
Yes, sir. I remember when we learned that, like in like last year when we used to go to school. I
Yeah,
remember it from
yes.
that time.
So the hogshead was used to store the molasses and also the sugar. More so the sugar and whatever drained from this because you realize it's board so things can basically drain out.
Excuse me,
So
sir.
whatever drain out that comes right here is the molasses.
Sir.
For me?
Sir, so then you see like the mutual benefits even more now because like without the hogshead, right, sir, that
Yes.
they send to them. Sir, how would they put the molasses and whatever in to send back to the North America, you know, sir? So,
Very good. So you see that problem's going to come. Not only that, if North America is not sending the oxide and the staves to the Caribbean. Who, right? How is it they are going to send the sugar to
Back
Britain?
to them.
How are they going to send the sugar
Put
to
it in
Britain?
bags.
Go ahead for me.
Wasn't it a case where they put a restriction on everything except lumber?
Listen, the British changed the policy several times until they just give up. Several times they changed it. So ladies, I'm going to encourage you for Monday's class to read page, where we do page 2 today, page 3, 4, and 5 for Monday's class, for Tuesday's class, 6 to 10.
Sir, read pages 6 to 10.
Yes, 6 to 10. So continue to read.
Should we do the question in the group?
In the group, please do the question, which is this question here. Notice this is a past paper question. Question A, describe the trade between American colonies and the British Caribbean up to 1776. Nice question. We would have
So
just this. What we just discussed in today's class cover A. If you should continue to read, it will cover all the other questions. But don't touch D. Don't touch question D.
Sir, we could low-key answer C, you know, because we're just talking about it.
Yes, you're correct.
Yes, girl, but one for high key answer, not just low key.
You're correct.
Sir, if you read the book, you can answer them.
In fact, if you read all the book, you can answer every single question here.
All the book?
And that's not what your instructions were, sir. Instructions were to read
Pages 6 to 10.
and do question A. Let's go.
Right.
All the book?
Question A. Do question A and read page 6 to 10. Ladies, we meet again on
Lunes.
Monday.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.